From coast to coast, the last few years have been marked by unprecedented events and stunning revolts surrounding public schools.
Call the school board.
My 6-year-old somberly came to me and asked me if she was born evil.
I'd rather see this school in ashes.
One of the biggest consequences of all the upheaval is a dramatic exodus.
Homeschooling has at least doubled.
This week, we examined failing public schools and parents taking the wheel to drive education in a new direction. The U.S. relationship with Ukraine and its dueling pro- and anti-Russian factions has long been complex and controversial.
It interfered within the internal politics of the United States, and that created a lot of ill will here.
Ukraine's involvement in U.S. politics and why the U.S. still supports Ukraine in the war with Russia.
We're dealing with the hidden enemy.
And this week, we get rare access to a secret Israeli unit.
This is the future.
Creating a new battle strategy called visual intelligence to stay one step ahead of the enemy.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Across the country, we're in the midst of an unprecedented explosion in homeschooling and alternative education. The main triggers were COVID-19 shutdowns and masking policies, but parents were already frustrated and revolting, even in some of the most liberal cities, over radical social agendas and poor academic results. Today, we investigate the mass exodus from America's public schools.
Just one drop of hot sauce makes a dragon's ear smoke.
Carter Mackey's may be just 4 years old, but his parents have already made a big decision about his formal education.
Why do dragons love tacos?
Have you decided whether he'll go to public school or not?
We've decided that we want to at least try to homeschool, and then if we need to make a decision, I think schools and public schools, have a purpose, but there's a lot of unknown, and there's a lot of things going on in the schools, and a lot of that is concerning.
That's an understatement.
Tell them to show some courage.
We don't need a microphone.
From coast to coast, the last few years have been marked by unprecedented events and stunning revolts surrounding public schools.
Fascist!
My 6-year-old somberly came to me and asked me if she was born evil because she was a white person, something she learned in a history lesson at school.
I'd rather see this school in ashes than to see you sit there with your pockets full while you suffocate our children with diapers on their faces.
My children will not come to school on Monday with a mask on. All right? That's not happening. And I will bring every single gun loaded and ready to, I will call every...
That's 3 minutes.
Recall the school board! Yes! Recall the school board!
In San Francisco, fed-up parents gave 3 school board members the boot in a landslide vote, accusing the board of putting woke activism over academics.
Them for their true colors and what they're trying to do to silence us.
In Loudoun County, Virginia, parents also recalled a school board member and are working on the others. Some parents are even putting themselves in the driver's seat.
I'm biracial, I'm bilingual, I'm multicultural. The fact is,
running for political office.
And the person who tells my little pecan-colored kids that they're somehow oppressed based on the color of their skin would be absolutely wrong and absolutely at war with me. My name is Brian Echeverria. I thank you for your service, and we're taking back the wheel.
Our K-12 schools rank 40th in the nation. When my wife and I look at our own kids, we wonder, will they have it better than us? Right now, the answer is no.
One of the biggest consequences of all the upheaval is a dramatic exodus from public schools. Corey DeAngelis is National Director of Research at the American Federation for Children, an advocate for school choice.
Relative to pre-pandemic levels, homeschooling has at least doubled.
That's
so
huge.
That's a huge surge in homeschooling.
How many kids does that represent? Are we talking about?
It's about a couple million students nationwide formally homeschooling pre-pandemic levels. So closer to 4 million students, for example, now.
Still more students have left for religious schools or other private schools, and charter school enrollment has spiked more than 7%.
Since pre-pandemic levels, there's been a mass exodus from the traditional public school system, and the public schools lost about 1.5 million students. And
is that in 2021 or?
This was the 2020-2021 school year relative to the previous year, about a 3.3% drop in enrollment. And so my basic idea is that the funding should follow the child to wherever they're getting an education. If it's the public school and that works best for them, absolutely they should be able to have that opportunity to stay there. But if not, they should be able to take their education dollars to a private charter home or another type of option.
And that's school choice, more or less?
That's what most people would define as school choice. We're actually calling 2021 the year of school choice, and I think it's because the teachers' unions overplayed their hand and awakened a sleeping giant, parents who want more of a say in their kids' education, and 19 states expanded or enacted programs to fund students as opposed to systems.
If anybody thought all the pupils lost during the COVID shutdowns would return to public school after the pandemic, that hasn't happened.
For all the bad things that happened starting in 2020, one of the unintended benefits is that some people got a taste of home-based education, and people who thought that they didn't have the ability to do it or they just didn't understand what it would take to get the job done, they've started to figure out that, well, maybe this works better for my kids.
So that's how many electrons it has.
That's the story of the Steckers when schools closed in Loudoun County, Virginia.
Well, they started with the shutting down of the schools. Kids had to be at home. They weren't learning anything new.
So the entire last quarter was a wash for them. So when we realized that they weren't going to have a plan to treat them any better, we said, all right, we're going to give homeschooling a try. Remember what I said, if you don't know the answer to something, move on to the next one. And when they started talking about bringing the kids back to school, first of all, they're just so much wishy-washy about it. They didn't have a solid plan. But by then, Loudoun County started hitting the national news over and over and over again. We became much more aware of their policies.
There was the father wrestled to the ground at a school board meeting. He tried to speak about his daughter's sexual assault in the bathroom by a boy wearing a skirt. Also in Loudoun County, there were controversies over taxpayer funds used to train educators in critical race theory, and a criminal investigation over a Facebook parents group that targeted parents and turned out to be made up of school board members and the local prosecutor.
And at that point, actually, one of my friends said, hey, the kids are going back to school. Are you going to put your kids back in school? And I said, let's see if Loudoun County Public Schools can go 1 week without making the national news first.
With their son's home, the Steckers discovered they were good at something they hadn't contemplated before, taking over teaching duties.
At this point today, I don't think we want to send them back to school.
Because public schools get money per student, the losses translate directly into dollars and cents. Denver, Colorado is projecting a 6% loss of public school students over the next few years, 6,000 kids, and $78 million a year. Denver's school superintendent told a board meeting that the district may have to start closing schools starting in 2024 due to dwindling enrollment.
In this year and a half wait as we do this process, there are some who are on life support right now who potentially will not even make it to that timeline.
We're not real happy with our education system overall, but certainly there are worse education systems and there are some very good schools. Is there a chance that this could damage the good?
When it comes to the kids who remain in the public schools, changes in enrollment and this bottom-up accountability can lead to better outcomes in the public schools as well. In fact, 25 of 27 studies that exist on the topic find statistically significant positive effects of private school choice competition on the kids who remain in the public schools. It's a win-win situation, and in this sense, school choice is a rising tide that lifts all boats.
Meantime, parents keeping their children out of public schools are developing even bigger ideas on the direction American education should go, and they're taking the wheel.
We need to be more involved, and we need to be able to help develop the plan for our children's education. So it's got to be more flexibility, more a la carte, more customization.
I think the kids should be like the CEOs of their own education, you know, as far as the things that they like and the things that they do.
It does count.
I think that should be more heavily focused on versus on things that it's like, hey, you got to know this, but they might not ever use it.
A poll by Real Clear Opinion Research found 74% supporting school choice after a year of school shutdowns, up 10 percentage points from the year before. Ahead on Full Measure, the complicated U.S. relationship with Ukraine. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, experts alternately push the Biden administration to do more to help Ukraine or advise that we not get in too deep. The U.S. relationship with Ukraine and its dueling pro- and anti-Russian factions has long been complex and controversial. Today we explore that with Victor Davis Hanson, a military history expert at the Hoover Institution. Before the war with Russia, Ukraine played an integral role in our politics, and we in theirs. The only way some people have even heard much about Ukraine, probably in recent years, is when it came up politically that things such as Hunter Biden's involvement with the Ukrainian government, there was a Ukrainian operative working with the Democratic National Committee to help build the Trump-Russia narrative with reporters. There's Ukraine involvement in our politics.
Well, I think people didn't like it. They didn't like the prominent role. We can revisit Burisma and Hunter Biden. Ukraine, via Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, was responsible for the impeachment.
For starters, in 2014, when his dad was vice president, Hunter Biden was hired by a Ukrainian energy company, Burisma, and paid millions. When Burisma came under investigation for alleged corruption, Joe Biden bragged that he got the prosecutor fired.
Joe Biden, remember when he was in front of the Council on Foreign Relations, and that another Biden-esque moment when he bragged that he had intervened with the then president to fire the prosecutor who was really looking at Hunter Biden and Burisma.
I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Biden claimed the prosecutor was the one who was corrupt. Ukrainian anti-Russian factions also played an integral role in building the false Russian narrative against candidate Donald Trump in 2016.
Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
A Trump victory is a gift to Vladimir Putin.
18 reasons Trump could be a Russian asset.
Alexandra Chalupa was a Ukrainian-American operative for the Democratic National Committee who'd worked for the Clinton administration. According to Politico, she led a massive push of the Trump-Russia collusion story in 2016, coordinating with the Ukrainian embassy in Washington, the Hillary for President campaign, members of Congress, and reporters at outlets like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Yahoo News. The FBI partnered with Ukraine's Anti-Corruption Bureau, producing allegations against Trump's campaign chief published in the New York Times. Multiple Ukrainian officials took to the media against Trump and his team. Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs, a former prime minister, the ambassador to the U.S., and a member of parliament called Trump an even bigger danger to the U.S. than terrorism and said that he challenged the very values of the free world. After Trump was elected, Ukraine played a large role in his first impeachment. Multiple State Department officials would later admit they defied his policy directives on Ukraine because they disagreed with him. Democrats launched impeachment proceedings, largely on the word of a White House Ukraine expert, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. Vindman accused Trump of improperly threatening to hold back aid to Ukraine to force an investigation of Hunter Biden's business dealings. Vindman was so close with certain factions in Ukraine, he admitted they repeatedly tried to hire him.
The Ukrainian government offered him on 3 occasions to be Minister of Defense.
Article 1 is adopted.
The allegations about Ukraine got Trump impeached in December 2019, but ultimately he was not convicted.
Is not guilty as charged in the second article of impeachment.
So the general impression is that Ukraine's supporters within the United States have taken an inordinately political role. And so what I'm getting at is, I know it's a weak state, but it was also corrupt and it interfered within the internal politics of the United States. And that created a lot of ill will here.
Though Ukraine's involvement in U.S. politics makes for a complicated dynamic, Hansen says there's no doubt Americans should stand firmly on their side when push comes to shove with Russia. Has Russia ever, when it's tried something comparable, turned tail and run back or accepted defeat? Is there any chance this ends in any other way?
No, they have. In 1939 in November, because they had a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany, they sort of abused that and they went into Finland. And they lost 500,000 people. So from November of 39 to April of 1940, they were bogged down. And finally they had to have a negotiated settlement. But it basically was an acknowledgement they couldn't absorb Finland. And in 1922, I think, when they went into Poland the first time, they were stopped. They were stopped in Afghanistan. And so I think it's a stereotype, but it said it's very foolish if you're a Swedish king or Napoleon or Hitler to go into Russia, because Russian soldiers fight fanatically on their home ground. But by the same token, the Russian army is not expeditionary. It does not do well outside the confines of Russia, historically.
Top UN officials calling on both Russia and Ukraine to launch investigations into videotaped incidents that appear to show their soldiers committing serious violations and mistreating prisoners of war. When we return, we're off to a war game in Israel to see how a secretive unit is using high tech to fight the enemy. Israel's military is a leader in the use of technology that experts say will determine the winners of future wars. Scott Thuman takes us to the Mideast for more.
In a field on the outskirts of Tel Aviv, Israeli Defense Force Unit 9900 is entrenched in a war game. These flight exercises honing navigation and maneuvering skills crucial to winning any conflict. Full Measure is the first group of foreign journalists to cover this secretive unit. We cannot show their faces or use their names.
Currently, we're dealing with the hidden enemy, okay? The enemy that we deal with, we cannot see it or him with our bare eyes.
Like these Palestinian prisoners on the run after escaping from a maximum security prison in Israel. Eyes in the sky feeding data to authorities on a manhunt to close in for the capture.
This whole thing gathers enough information in order to understand exactly where is the enemy.
Aiming at enemies like the Iranian-backed terrorist group Hamas, which in May launched thousands of rockets at Israel from the Gaza Strip. Unit 9900 neutralizing the threat of another with this precision strike on missiles hidden in this tree grove. And increasingly, they're using an offensive maneuver known as a swarm. One pilot commands multiple drones, working as a single unit capable of locating and attacking numerous targets across a wide area. Meanwhile, Iranian-backed forces upping their drone game too, and changing the security equation in the Middle East capable of hitting Israel from 600 miles away, and has greater reach in hitting other targets too by using proxies, like the Houthi rebels in Yemen. That Iranian-supported force used drones in a January terror attack to hit a key oil facility in Abu Dhabi, a critical global producer of oil. So back in Israel, these drone pilots practicing cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint the location of enemy forces, combine it with geographical data, and relay that intelligence in real time to troops on the battlefield and pilots in the sky.
And that comes in very handy, man. That's very helpful.
We've done a lot of missions in order to gather where the missiles are going to be shot from, where the explosives are put.
9900 is an incredibly selective unit. Members are recruited out of high school for their math, physics, and problem-solving skills.
The goal, the mission of Unit 9900 is visual intelligence, pushing the envelope on technology and keeping one step ahead of the enemy. So your job is to stay ahead of the game.
I can't predict the future, but with the game, I see how the game rolls and I play with it. But yeah, like we need to be in the most advanced that the market could be.
As much as Unit 9900 informs Israeli forces from the air, on the ground, they code and test augmented reality software designed to prep infantry for scenarios they might face during an urban assault, or that pilots would encounter in air-to-air combat.
Everyone's ready?
As they try to dominate the airways, they are also under pressure to make sure their enemies don't beat them to it.
It's a really complicated job because you always have to be aware, you always have to put your hands on the pulse of the market. You need to make sure that nothing has gone without you knowing it.
Because you need to stay one step ahead of the enemy.
Yes, one step even two.
I'm Scott Thuman for Full Measure in Israel.
And we'll be right back. Coming up next week on Full Measure, it's what some consider an alarming revelation. Emails showing top public health officials at the National Institutes of Health, or NIH, conspiring to attack reputable scientists who disagreed with their approach on COVID.
It was essentially an organized propaganda campaign started by the NIH to marginalize me, to call me fringe, even though I've been a Stanford professor for 20 years in the medical school.
What happens when the government silences researchers? We investigate one of the lesser discussed casualties of the COVID pandemic, scientific debate, next week on Full Measure. Until then, we'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable. Thanks for watching.